Well, the interesting thing is yesterday, Sean, the House passed a resolution which says there should be no disruption by the president or any person in power to overturn the will of the people. And while the bill was passed, there were 5 Republicans who voted against the resolution affirming the chamber's commitment to a peaceful transition of power. And one of the 5 is our next guest, Kentucky Congressman Thomas Massie. Congressman, good to see you.
Hey, thanks for having me on. That resolution was just a poke in the eye at the president. The Democrats were trying, gamesmanship on the floor. Some Republican says, okay, that's cute, we'll vote for it. And I said, you know what, we've got better things to do with our time. We haven't passed any of the appropriations bills. And they wouldn't go on the record for a $2 trillion bill, but they want to go on the record for a meaningless resolution. So, you know what, let them have their fun on the floor. I'm voting against it.
It's a stunt. I get it, but I think your point is well taken. You've got people, these guys love to talk about all these issues that people are dealing with COVID, and they are. Businesses are shut, people can't go to church, and this is how they waste your time? I mean, this is silly. The election will be certified by the 50 states and territories as to who the winner is. You count it up. Whoever gets 270 wins. If they don't, the Constitution lays out it goes to you guys in the House. Every state gets a vote. We are wasting so much time talking about a very settled issue.
Yeah, and I think you were right, Sean. The president answered the question. It didn't take him 2 minutes to answer the question. He answered it in like 10 seconds. And that's where the president was at his best in this debate. I think when, Chris Wallace asked the question, the president just answered it straight up. The loser of this debate was Chris Wallace, because when he was debating the president, he was losing. And then when he was trying to moderate the debate, he lost. So the big loser in this debate was
Congressman, can I don't mean to belabor this because it's more of a waste of, I don't want to waste any more time on this issue, but I've run a lot of congressional races and other political races. The first race that I ran, we lost by 2 votes. I ran one in 2000 that we won by 286. In both cases, we went out there and declared victory. That's what you do. Then you let the courts and the process work its way out. But from a public opinion standpoint, part of what the process is to go out, make your case, why you think it is. And I mean, it's almost like trying to make your case to the people as it works its way through the process. But there are legal processes through which all of these things work. If the House of Representatives ultimately, by law, ends up in the House of Representatives, local elections have local procedures for doing this. We are making much too big of a deal out of something of which there is a very legal and time-tested process for.
Yeah, there's a double standard here. I mean, look, Hillary told Joe Biden not to accept the results under any circumstance. Not the day of, not a week later, never, she said.
Yeah. Well, I want to ask you your overall take on the debate last night, and more so what should be done moving forward, because we saw, I don't know if it benefited the American people to have so much back and forth. What do you think needs to be done for both candidates for this next debate in a few weeks?
Well, I think Trump was at his best again when he answered Chris Wallace directly, unlike Joe Biden, who wouldn't answer Chris Wallace's questions, whether it was about the Green New Deal or whether Antifa really exists, or whether he was going to pack the court. Like, Joe Biden literally wouldn't answer any of those questions. I think the president would have been better served to let Joe Biden stumble, give him a little rope and let him trip himself up. Going forward, I'd like to see the moderator be able to cut the mics, because this was like a basketball game that turned into a boxing match because there were no referee who could call the shots.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, to be able to just give them their 2 minutes, turn off their mic, therefore we can listen to them uninterrupted.
Congressman, I want to talk to you a little bit about the issue of the environment. I thought the president handled the issue of climate change perfectly well last night. But here's what I want to play you Joe Biden said when it came to his response on the Green New Deal. He said, and I don't know that we have that right now, but he said, I'm not in support of the Green New Deal. And I'm like, wait a second, on your website, Vice President Biden, it says the Green New Deal is an important part of my agenda, and it's a pledge that he's made to Bernie Sanders and AOC. Do you think that this is going to hurt him with the progressive left?
Well, he's trying to equivocate. I read the Green New Deal because it's only 14 pages long. And when I got done reading it, I realized why it's only 14 pages long. There are only 64 crayons in a box. I mean, it is such a simplistic idea. Yet, one member of the Democratic Party has taken everybody else hostage to this. So he couldn't decide whether he was for the Green New Deal, but he definitely said he wants to get us back into the Paris Climate Accord, and that's going to raise energy prices. You know, Trump was spot on, and that was one of his accomplishments, was getting us out of that lousy deal.
And Congressman, before I let you go, your state has been rattled by the Breonna Taylor case. There is now a big movement afoot to have the Attorney General there, Daniel Cameron, release the grand jury testimony. I know he said he will. There's now talk that it's going to be delayed by some time. But let me ask you, are we going down a dangerous path by allowing grand jury testimony to be released? Because part of the reason it's done the way it is to allow the people to go in and say what they need to say before we get to trial. And so I guess the question is, as important as this case is, to make sure that it never happens that an innocent person is killed the way she was, are we going down a path that may be too far, legally speaking?
Well, I don't think we should break precedent. And I think Daniel Cameron is doing a great job on this particular issue. If they do release the grand jury testimony or whatever comes out, I think there are things that they can still hold back and may typically do. But, you know, it doesn't matter. You could release everything. And there's still people who are going to be unhappy. But there's no excuse for what's going on in Louisville. I mean, they're destroying property. And I know one of the guys who got assaulted, his car got stopped. I've met him before. They got his doors open, crushed his glasses against his face, and started grabbing his pockets and trying to drag him out of the car. And he was just trying to get to dinner. There's nothing that justifies that, but I'm afraid that there's nothing they could release that would stop that from happening at this point.
Congressman, thank you for being with us. You know, you have reminded me before, we've talked about you on the show. I just want to make sure your Christmas card list is intact. An earlier guest responded that some of your hard-charging tactics might potentially lead you to get off these Christmas card lists. Are you concerned about that?
You know, I may get a fewer Christmas cards this year because on March 27th, I was that guy. That was the first day, Sean, and you can appreciate this, that CNN got a headline right. They said I was the most hated man in Washington, D.C. They've never got a headline right since then or before that.
All right. Well, an early Merry Christmas to you, sir, and thank you for joining.
Sean.
You bet.